The rain streaked the window as I watched her car disappear down the street. The wipers slashed back and forth, a frantic rhythm against the gray, but all I could hear was the silence inside me. I had 1,000 words, "I'm sorry, I miss you, goodbye," but they stayed locked in my throat, heavy as stones, unwilling to break free. Her taillights blurred into the distance, red against the wet pavement, and that image burned itself into me, a moment I've carried ever since. The silence echoed through the empty room, through the days that followed, through years I didn't expect it to touch. It wasn't just her leaving, it was the goodbye we never said, the words we both swallowed, the closure we left behind like a half-finished song, its notes hanging in the air, unresolved. That moment, it's not unique to me. We all have them, don't we? Those goodbyes that linger, the ones we never voiced, the ones that shape our hearts in ways we don't always see. Maybe it was a friendship that faded without a word, a phone call you never made, a person you loved who slipped away too soon. For me, it was Sarah, my best friend from college, the one who knew my dreams before I did, who shared my laughter and my tears until one day she didn't. We drifted, not with a fight, but with distance, new jobs, new cities, new lives. I meant to call to say, "Let's talk, let's fix this," but I didn't. And then came that rainy day, her car pulling away after a brief, awkward visit, her eyes avoiding mine, my voice failing me. The goodbye stayed unsaid, and it's haunted me, a shadow I couldn't shake, a question I couldn't answer. That's the hook, the pull of this story. Unsaid goodbyes linger like unfinished songs, their melodies looping in our minds, their absence louder than any words could be. They shape us, subtly at first, then deeply, weaving themselves into our fears, our regrets, our hopes. They're the emails we draft but never send, the apologies we rehearse but never speak, the dreams we let go of without ever acknowledging their loss. And yet they don't have to define us. This book, this journey we're embarking on together, is a map, a guide, a companion to name those lingering goodbyes, to feel their weight, and to let them go, not with force, but with grace, with understanding, with peace. Here's something experts like Dr. John Gottman, a renowned psychologist, have found. Unresolved conflict, those unspoken words and unexpressed emotions, can erode our mental health, our relationships, our sense of self. His research shows that when we bottle up what needs to be said, whether it's anger, sorrow, or love, it festers, creating stress, anxiety, even physical tension. It's not just about the other person, it's about us, about how we carry that silence, how it shapes our days, our nights, our lives. But here's the hope: we can change that. We can confront the past, process the silence, and find closure not by rewriting history, but by rewriting our relationship with it. So, as we start this together, I want you to pause. Take a deep breath, feel the rhythm of your own heart, and ask yourself, what goodbye lingers in your life? Is it a person you lost touch with, a dream you abandoned, a version of yourself you left behind? Take a moment to feel its weight, the ache, the question, the echo. Don't rush past it. Don't push it away. Just hold it gently, like a stone you've carried too long, and know this: we'll carry it together from here. We'll walk through the memories, face the silence, and find the closure you deserve. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to stay stuck. There's a path forward, a way to heal, a chance to say the goodbye you never said, not out loud perhaps, but in your heart, in your mind, in your life. Let's take that first step now, together, into the story of what was, what is, and what can be. Chapter 1, The Echoes of Silence. I remember the day she left like it was yesterday.
It wasn't dramatic, no goodbyes, no long hugs, no promises to stay in touch.
It was just quiet. One moment, she was there, laughing with me on the swings at the old playground, and the next she was gone.
Her family had to move across the country, and it seemed so sudden, so unfair. I stood by the chain-link fence, watching the packed-up car drive away, dust rising in its wake. My best friend, the one who understood every word I didn't say, was gone. And just like that, the world felt smaller.
The playground, which had once been our kingdom, now felt like a hollow stage, the echoes of our laughter replaced by an oppressive silence. The swing she used to sit on was the only thing left behind, a forgotten reminder. It swayed slowly in the wind, creaking gently as though it too was mourning the absence of her.
I remember walking over to it, pushing it with my hand, and feeling an inexplicable heaviness in my chest.
She wasn't coming back. There was no farewell, no last hug, and as the empty swing swung back and forth, I felt something stir deep inside me.
A sense of abandonment mixed with confusion that would follow me for years. But it wasn't just the loss I felt, it was the silence that came with it. The unsaid goodbye, the words left unspoken, echoed in my mind long after. Why hadn't I said more? Why hadn't I asked her to stay or promised to write every day?
The questions lingered long after the swing had stopped moving.
I wasn't the only one who was affected.
In the weeks that followed, I noticed that her absence seemed to create a ripple effect, like a stone thrown into a still pond. Her family left, but the silence remained. It filled the classroom, the empty seat next to me, the silence between me and the other kids who didn't understand what I was feeling.
It filled the corners of my heart in a way that words couldn't.
I found myself looking for her everywhere, hoping she'd just appear, but each time, all I'd see was the echo of what had been. That's the thing about unsaid goodbyes, they don't just vanish. They leave echoes, silent ripples that continue to travel through time, shaping who we become. Grief, guilt, longing, they can all exist in these quiet spaces, even when the event itself has long passed.
The echo of my friend's departure wasn't something I could outrun. It stayed with me, woven into my memories and unspoken regrets, showing up in moments when I least expected it.
Psychologists have a name for this. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. It's the idea that unfinished tasks tend to linger in our minds longer than completed ones. We find ourselves constantly revisiting these incomplete moments, trying to make sense of them, even when we don't have all the answers. It's like our brains are wired to hold on to the unfinished business, those conversations we never had, the goodbyes we never said. In a way, they become mental and emotional tasks that we can't quite seem to check off our list. Unfinished moments, like that farewell I never got to say, stay with us because they're unresolved. We can't just close the door on them, and so they keep echoing again and again through our thoughts, our hearts, and our lives. That swing, the empty seat in class, the look on my mother's face as she tried to comfort me, it all became part of the silent narrative I carried for years. And I bet you know what I'm talking about.
Maybe it wasn't a childhood friend for you. Maybe it was someone you loved, a relationship that ended without closure, or a dream you had to let go of too soon.
Whatever it was, you can probably still feel the echoes of it, the way it lingers, soft but persistent, in the quiet moments of your life. These echoes are real, and they can shape us in ways we don't always understand. They can hold us back, keeping us from moving forward because we're still trying to make peace with what was left unsaid. But here's the thing, the echoes are only part of the story. They don't have to define us. We can start to find closure, even in the silence. And the first step is acknowledging the echoes we've been carrying with us. Once we name them, we begin the process of letting them go. Take a moment to reflect on the echoes in your own life. Think of the times when something was left unsaid, when you were unable to get the closure you needed.
These are the moments that linger.
They might be subtle, but they're there, shaping your emotions in ways you may not even realize. So let's begin with a simple exercise. Reflection exercise. List 3 echoes in your life. These could be anything, people, experiences, or even emotions that have stayed with you because of unsaid goodbyes.
What emotions do they stir?
Is it grief, guilt, longing, or something else?
Take a moment to really feel the weight of these echoes and let yourself sit with those emotions.
By doing this, we're taking the first step in acknowledging the past, not as something to hide from, but as something that has shaped us. And once we recognize those echoes, we can begin to understand their impact and eventually let them go. Chapter 2. The stories we tell ourselves. There was a night not too long ago when I found myself lying on the grass, staring up at the sky. It was one of those nights where the stars are so clear they seem almost too bright, as though the universe has decided to put on a show just for you. I remember feeling the coolness of the earth beneath me, the quiet hum of the world around me, and yet my mind was loud with the same story I'd been telling myself for months.
His face appeared in my thoughts, just like it always did when the silence between us became too much to ignore. We hadn't spoken in weeks, no real reason, just time and distance pulling us apart.
It wasn't the kind of breakup that ended with anger or betrayal. There was no fight, no big argument. It was just silence. A soft, quiet drift that I couldn't explain, but that still weighed so heavily on my heart. And so, I replayed it all.
I imagined the conversation we never had, the words I never got to say. We'd sit together, just like we used to, under the stars, and I'd tell him everything that had been bottled up inside me. How I missed him. How I didn't want things to end this way. How I was afraid of losing him without ever having the chance to make it right.
But in these imagined conversations, I always found myself saying things I thought would fix it all, even though deep down I knew I would never get the chance to hear him say the words I needed to hear.
And there it was again, those stories. The ones we tell ourselves to fill the void left by unsaid goodbyes.
We all do it, don't we?
We create narratives to explain the silence.
Sometimes we tell ourselves stories that protect us from the truth.
Maybe we say it wasn't meant to be, or he never cared as much as I did.
These stories offer comfort, even if they're not entirely accurate. They give us something to hold on to when we're trying to make sense of what's been left unsaid. But then there are the other stories, the ones that punish us. The ones that say, it's my fault. I should have tried harder.
If only I had said this or done that, maybe it wouldn't have ended this way.
These stories are cruel, and they have a way of sticking with us long after the relationship has faded. I told myself both kinds of stories for months.
Some nights, I'd lie in bed imagining him telling me it's not you, it's me. The perfect cliché, one that would somehow ease the sting of everything unsaid. Other nights, the story turned inward, and I would replay every single misstep, every moment where I felt I didn't do enough. If only I hadn't gotten scared, I'd tell myself. If only I had opened up, told him what I needed. Maybe we would still be together.
These stories, like old coats, are comforting at first. They're familiar. They help us make sense of the chaos. They offer some kind of explanation for the silence, for the broken pieces that never seemed to fit together. But after a while, they begin to weigh us down. The coat, once warm and protective, becomes heavy, oppressive. It no longer comforts, but constrains. What we don't realize is that these stories, these imagined conversations, keep us stuck. They don't allow us to move forward because we're too busy replaying the past, revisiting what could have been, instead of accepting what is. We hold on to these stories because they give us something to hold on to, even if it's not the truth. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They distort reality. They keep us tethered to a version of the past that no longer serves us, preventing us from finding peace or closure. We tell ourselves these stories to feel in control, to fill the empty spaces left by those unsaid words. But in doing so, we trap ourselves in a loop of regret, guilt, or longing, never giving ourselves the chance to truly heal. But here's the thing, we don't have to keep telling ourselves these stories. We don't have to keep wearing that old heavy coat. We have the power to rewrite our narrative. It's not easy. It takes time and it takes kindness toward ourselves, but it's possible. Let me offer you a simple exercise to begin this journey. Journal prompt. Write the story you've told yourself about an unsaid goodbye. Be honest with yourself.
What narrative have you been carrying?
Is it a story of blame, of regret, or perhaps of self-protection? Now, rewrite it. This time, rewrite it with kindness toward yourself. What would the story look like if you allowed yourself to be compassionate?
What would it sound like if you acknowledged the hurt, but also the strength you've shown in the face of it?
How would the narrative shift if you accepted that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time? In rewriting this story, you take back control.
You begin to release the power that these old narratives have over you. The silence, the unanswered questions, and the regrets no longer have to define you.
You can make peace with the story even if it's unfinished. The past will always be a part of us, but it doesn't have to hold us captive. You see, the stories we tell ourselves are not written in stone. They can be rewritten, reshaped, and released.
And in doing so, we can finally let go of the weight they've been carrying for far too long.
Chapter 3: The Burden of Regret.
It's strange how regret doesn't always show up with a loud crash.
It doesn't come barging in, demanding your attention. Instead, it slips in quietly, like dust gathering in the corners of a forgotten room.
I remember the day my mentor passed away, how it felt like time slowed, like the world paused for just a moment to acknowledge the loss. I should have known it was coming. He'd been battling illness for years, and yet, when the call came, it still hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd always meant to thank him.
Always, but I never did.
The last time I saw him, he was in his office, sitting at his desk, his eyes still full of that bright, steady energy that had always made me feel like anything was possible. We spoke briefly. He was busy as always, but he wished me well, just as he had so many times before. I remember walking away feeling a sense of gratitude, but also a sense of unfinished business.
I knew deep down that I should have said more.
I should have told him what he had meant to me, how much his guidance had shaped my career and my life. I should have thanked him for being more than just a mentor, for being a friend, a role model, someone who had always believed in me when I doubted myself. But I didn't. And when he passed away, I was left with that one crushing regret.
A thank you note that had never been written, words that would never be spoken.
It was a weight that settled in my chest and refused to move.
I found that note, his thank you note, in a drawer just a few weeks after his funeral.
It was a dusty, crumpled thing, faded with time, as though it had been waiting for me to find it. My heart sank when I saw it. I had planned to write it. I had meant to write it. The words had been right there in my head, but somehow life had always gotten in the way.
And now, there it was, a symbol of all the things I hadn't said, a tangible reminder of the gap between intention and action.
A letter that would never reach its destination.
Regret has a way of haunting you. It doesn't just live in the past, it follows you, clings to you, showing up in unexpected moments. You can be going about your day, moving forward, and then, out of nowhere, it hits you. That feeling of I should have done more. I should have said something. It can be overwhelming, suffocating even, like you're being pulled back into that moment of missed opportunity. But here's the thing, regret isn't always a bad thing. I know it sounds strange. We often think of regret as something we should avoid at all costs, something to be pushed aside or buried. But in reality, regret is a powerful teacher.
It shines a light on the things that matter most.
It points us toward what we value, what we've overlooked, and what we need to change in order to live more fully.
When I looked at that crumpled thank you note, I realized something. That note wasn't just about gratitude.
It was about connection.
About recognizing the people who help us grow and acknowledging them while we still can.
And in the absence of that thank you note, I learned the importance of expressing my gratitude in the moment. I learned that life is too short to wait, too precious to leave words unspoken. Regret is heavy, there's no denying that. It weighs on you like a stone in your chest, a constant reminder of what you didn't do. But it also opens a door. It shows you what's truly important, the things that matter most: love, connection, courage, and the willingness to show up for the people who have made a difference in your life. I think of a quote by Rumi that has always resonated with me. The wound is the place where the light enters you. In many ways, that's what regret does. It's a wound, yes, but it's also a doorway to something deeper. It forces us to confront the things we've overlooked, the things we've taken for granted. And in doing so, it teaches us how to live better, how to show up more fully in our relationships, and how to make the most of the time we have. It's easy to think that once regret has settled in, it's a permanent fixture. We carry it with us, believing that it's a burden we must bear for the rest of our lives. But that's not the truth.
Regret doesn't have to be a life sentence.
It can be the spark that leads us to make amends, to express our feelings, to take action where we once hesitated. It can be the catalyst for change, the wake-up call that reminds us to show up for the people who matter, to say the things that need to be said, and to take the risks that we've been avoiding. I can't change what happened with my mentor. I can't go back and rewrite the past, and I certainly can't send that thank you note now. But I can learn from it. I can use the lessons of that regret to shape my future. I can be more intentional with my words and my actions.
I can show up more fully for the people who are still in my life.
And I can make sure that the regrets I carry are not the ones that weigh me down, but the ones that push me to be better, to be braver, to be more present. Action step. Now, it's your turn to reflect. Identify one regret tied to an unsaid goodbye.
Maybe it's something you've carried for years, or maybe it's more recent.
What does this regret teach you about what matters now? Is it about connection, gratitude, courage? Perhaps it's about something else entirely. Take a moment to think about what this regret has revealed to you, and then ask yourself, how can you use this lesson moving forward? What steps can you take to avoid carrying the same weight in the future? Regret doesn't have to be something that paralyzes you. It can be the very thing that frees you. It can teach you how to live with more intention, more presence, and more love. The burden of regret may never fully disappear, but with each lesson it brings, we can step into a future that's a little lighter, a little freer, and a little more connected. Chapter 4: The Power of Words Unspoken.
The house was quiet now, but it hadn't always been that way. It used to be filled with the sound of laughter, the hum of conversations that stretched long into the evening. The smell of dinner wafted through the halls, mingling with the sound of the television in the background.
It was a home, or at least it used to feel like one. I can still remember the day everything changed.
The argument wasn't anything special, not at first.
It wasn't some catastrophic event that sent shockwaves through our family. No, it started small, like a spark in a dry field, something that could have been put out with a single word. But it wasn't. That word apology never came.
Instead, there were slammed doors, angry words, and silence.
It started with a disagreement, as many do. My brother and I had been at odds for weeks. Nothing too serious, just the usual squabbles that siblings get into when they're older and more aware of their differences. But this time, something about it felt heavier.
Maybe it was because we were both carrying more than we'd let on, or than either of us had been brave enough to talk about. It was a Saturday afternoon when the argument escalated.
We were at the kitchen table, my mom trying to mediate, as she so often did, and my dad standing in the background watching. The words came faster, then louder. What had started as a misunderstanding about something trivial became a full-blown shouting match. I remember my brother's face red with anger, his voice shaking with frustration.
And mine equally heated, equally stubborn.
But somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew what would happen next.
I could feel the door closing.
I should have said something. I should have stopped it before it spiraled. But I didn't. My pride got in the way, as it often does. I refused to back down, just as he did.
Neither of us was willing to be the first to apologize. I told myself I wasn't wrong, and I was sure he felt the same.
So we sat in our silence, holding on to the words we were both too afraid to say. And then it happened. The door slammed. The silence that followed was deafening, suffocating. That was the last time we spoke like we used to. The argument didn't just end that day, it hung in the air between us, thickening with each passing month.
We both walked away from that day, nursing our pride like a wound we didn't want to acknowledge. Our family, once filled with warmth and conversation, became a place of unspoken words and tension. Years passed and the silence deepened.
The argument faded into the background, but the distance between us only grew. Every holiday, every family gathering, I could feel the weight of it. The silence between me and my brother was no longer just a lack of communication. It was a barrier, a wall we had both built brick by brick.
Neither of us had ever apologized, and neither of us knew how to break the silence.
It wasn't until much later, after I'd grown older, that I realized what that silence had cost us.
The power of those unspoken words had shaped our relationship in ways I never expected.
I didn't just lose my brother, I lost the chance to heal, to grow, to make things right.
But in a way, that silence had also changed me.
It taught me about fear of vulnerability, of rejection, of pain. It showed me just how powerful silence can be, how it can control us if we let it. You see, silence often hides something deeper than mere stubbornness. It's not just about being right or wrong. More often than not, silence is a mask for something more vulnerable: fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of being rejected, or fear of opening up and exposing a wound that feels too raw. And that's why it's so powerful. Silence may seem like a simple absence, but it carries with it the weight of everything we're afraid to say. It's a quiet force that dictates how we relate to others, how we protect ourselves, and how we avoid the discomfort of vulnerability. Bryn Brown, a researcher on vulnerability and courage, speaks about how vulnerability is essential for connection. She writes, "Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome." It's a powerful truth. Vulnerability takes courage. It's the courage to speak when every part of you wants to stay silent, to show up when you're afraid of what might happen next. But without that vulnerability, we remain stuck in our fears, paralyzed by the idea of being rejected or misunderstood. In that moment, when my brother and I stood facing each other with pride on one side and hurt on the other, neither of us had the courage to show up.
Neither of us was willing to risk the vulnerability of saying, "I'm sorry."
And in doing so, we allowed silence to take control of our relationship. Silence became the space we lived in, and the years we spent estranged were the consequence of that refusal to speak.
But what if we had been able to say those words? What if instead of slamming the door, I had said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you"? What if I had allowed myself to be vulnerable, to face my fear of rejection?
Would things have been different?
I'll never know, but what I do know is this: silence can only hold power over us if we let it.
It's up to us to break the silence and find the courage to speak. Visualization exercise. Take a moment now to picture yourself in a situation where silence has held power over you. Maybe it's with someone you care about, or perhaps it's an apology you've never given. Picture yourself saying the words you've been afraid to speak. It doesn't matter if you're alone or if you imagine the other person there.
Visualize saying the words, "I'm sorry, I miss you," or even "I love you."
What shifts inside you? What do you feel? Perhaps there's a sense of release, of letting go of the weight that has been carried in the silence. Perhaps it feels vulnerable, even uncomfortable. But notice this: there's power in these words. They carry the weight of connection, of healing, of possibility. Even in your mind, the act of speaking these words has the potential to shift something in your heart. You don't need the other person's response. What matters is that you've given yourself the freedom to say what you've kept inside. If you can do this in your imagination, you can also take steps toward making it real. The silence that once held power over you can be broken not by waiting for the right moment, but by taking the courage to speak first, to show up in vulnerability, to let the words you've kept inside come out. And so I leave you with this thought. The words you don't speak have immense power, but the words you choose to say can heal, can reconnect, and can break the silence that has held you captive. Choose wisely, and when you're ready, find the courage to speak. Chapter 5: The Art of Listening to Silence. It was the kind of night that felt like it could last forever.
The kind where the silence between us was so thick it felt like a presence in the room, almost suffocating.
We had just fought. Again, the words had flown out faster than either of us could stop them, sharp and bitter.
And now we sat on opposite ends of the living room, our bodies stiff, the air heavy with everything we hadn't said.
The clock on the wall ticked with a relentless rhythm, each second dragging by like an eternity.
Each tick was louder than the last, filling the space where our voices had once been.
I tried to focus on it, this ticking sound, trying to distract myself from the weight of the silence that pressed against my chest. But it didn't help. The silence didn't fill the space, it stretched it out, pulling everything we had left unsaid into the corners of the room.
I could feel the cool air in the room, thick and suffocating.
It was strange how something so simple as a breath could feel so heavy. The lights were dim, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the distance, and the faint hum of the refrigerator was the only other sound that accompanied the ticking clock. It felt as if the whole world had been turned down, muted, and all that remained was this silence.
But it wasn't an empty silence.
It was full of resentment, fear, and hurt.
It was full of things we couldn't say, of words that would not come. I glanced over at him sitting on the couch, his back turned to me. His shoulders were tense, his face hard to read. He wasn't looking at me, but I could feel his presence just as clearly as if we'd been standing face to face.
The air was thick with everything that had been left unsaid between us over the years, the apologies we had never given, the apologies we had never received. All of it was right there hanging between us, and neither of us knew how to start.
The silence between us wasn't just the absence of words, it was a language in itself. It was the quiet scream of unmet needs, of unspoken desires, of wounds that had never been healed.
It was a reminder of everything we had never worked through, everything we had buried under the guise of pride, fear, and shame. Each silent moment between us spoke volumes about the places we hadn't dared to go, the conversations we had avoided because they felt too vulnerable, too raw.
And in that moment, I realized something.
Silence isn't empty. It isn't just the absence of sound. It's the absence of something deeper, the absence of connection, of understanding, of healing. And it's when we fail to listen to the silence that it begins to control us.
The silence speaks in its own way, but we often fail to hear it.
We ignore its language, afraid of what it might reveal, afraid of what we might have to face.
I had spent so much time avoiding the silence between us.
I thought that by not addressing it, I was keeping things calm, keeping things manageable. But the silence had grown, and with it, the space between us had grown too. We were two people in the same room, but we were miles apart.
The silence had become its own barrier, keeping us stuck in a cycle of hurt and miscommunication.
It wasn't until that night, in the thick of our unresolved argument, that I realized how much we had been avoiding. The truth was, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of everything we haven't said. It's the things we're too afraid to speak, the things we don't know how to say, the things that scare us too much to confront. But silence doesn't just sit there waiting for us to notice. It pulls at us like an invisible thread connecting us to our deepest fears and regrets. And if we don't listen to it, if we don't learn to hear the messages it holds, it will keep us stuck in the same painful patterns, never allowing us to move forward.
In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to break the silence. I wanted to say the words that had been sitting on the tip of my tongue for so long.
But the words were tangled in my throat.
The fear of rejection, the fear of being vulnerable held me back.
I didn't want to apologize, not yet.
Not until I was sure he would accept it. Not until I was certain he felt the same.
But in that silence, I realized something else. That silence is not neutral. It isn't something we can simply ignore or walk away from. It is alive, it grows, and it will haunt us until we learn to listen. There's a strange power in silence. It can be healing, yes, but it can also be damaging if we refuse to acknowledge it. Silence can be a space for reflection, for processing, for understanding. But only if we are brave enough to confront it, brave enough to let it show us what it's trying to say. And that's the challenge, isn't it? To listen to silence, to hear the words it holds, to allow it to guide us toward healing. Brené Brown, in her work on vulnerability, speaks about the importance of being willing to show up, to be seen, even when we are uncertain or afraid. She writes, "Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome." Silence is much the same. It's not about avoiding discomfort or pretending that everything is okay. It's about showing up to the silence, being willing to listen to what it has to say, and having the courage to face what we find there. The silence that night wasn't just a reflection of our disagreement. It was a mirror of all the things we hadn't healed. It was a reflection of everything we had buried beneath our pride, our defensiveness, our fears. And in that moment, I realized that the only way forward was to listen to the silence, to hear the unmet needs and unspoken wounds, and to allow myself the vulnerability to speak, even if the words didn't come easily. meditation exercise. Now I invite you to sit in silence for a few moments. Close your eyes and breathe deeply.
As you breathe in, feel the air fill your lungs, slow and steady.
As you breathe out, release the tension in your body. Let yourself settle into the silence. Sit here for 5 minutes, just you and the quiet. As you sit, notice what comes up. What do you hear in the silence? What does it whisper about your own unsaid goodbyes, your own unmet needs? What words have you left unspoken? What emotions have you left unresolved? Listen carefully, not just with your ears, but with your heart.
What does the silence tell you about where you've been, where you are now, and where you need to go?
Let the silence speak to you without judgment or expectation. Just listen. When the 5 minutes are over, take a deep breath and open your eyes. Notice how the silence has shifted within you. What have you learned from the quiet? What has it revealed to you about the words you've kept inside? Sometimes the act of listening to silence is the first step toward healing. It's in those quiet moments that we begin to understand ourselves and the people we care about more deeply. The silence doesn't have to be scary. It can be a guide, a teacher, if we are brave enough to listen. Chapter 6. The Courage to Speak. The sea was quiet that day, at least, quieter than usual.
The waves lapped gently against the shore as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. The wind blew softly, teasing the strands of my hair, making the salty air feel even colder against my skin. The sky stretched above me in a wide, open canvas, its soft, muted colors casting a peaceful glow over the horizon. I stood there for a while, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me.
In my hands was a letter, an old, crinkled envelope that I had carried with me all the way from home. I had written it the night before, words spilling out onto the page, unfiltered and raw.
The letter was for someone I'd lost long ago, someone I'd never really said goodbye to.
I had thought about them every day since that final moment we shared every day, except the days I had been too afraid to confront the silence between us. I took a deep breath, holding the letter in my hands, feeling the weight of all those unsaid words, all those unresolved feelings. The wind picked up again, a little stronger this time, as if it was encouraging me to let go, to speak.
I stood there for a moment longer, staring at the letter, knowing what I had to do, but unsure if I could find the strength to do it. And then, almost as if the decision had already been made for me, I spoke.
Dear, the name came out in a whisper, carried away by the wind before I could even finish it. But that was okay.
I wasn't speaking to anyone who could hear me, not really.
Not in the way we usually think of speaking. This wasn't a conversation. This wasn't about finding closure in the traditional sense. No, this was about giving voice to something I had carried inside for far too long.
This was about letting the words breathe, letting them exist in the world instead of in my mind where they had been imprisoned by fear.
I never said goodbye, I continued, my voice growing a little stronger as I let the words flow. I didn't know how, and for a long time I thought that silence would be enough. I thought that if I stayed quiet, it would somehow keep the memory of you intact, that it would make it easier to forget the pain. But the silence has only made it harder. The wind caught my words, twisting them and carrying them out over the sea as if to affirm that they were no longer bound by the weight of my hesitation. I miss you.
I miss the things we never talked about, the things we left unsaid.
But I'm learning, finally, that I don't have to keep it all inside anymore. I can let these words go, and I can learn to live without the heaviness of regret.
I can choose peace.
The letter was my way of speaking, of finding my voice in a moment that had always been defined by silence. The silence of things left unsaid, of a goodbye never spoken.
And by speaking those words aloud, I was releasing them. Releasing the hurt, the guilt, the regret.
It was as if the very act of speaking them gave them permission to exist, no longer trapped in my chest where they had been suffocating for so long. The letter, which I had written in the quiet of my room, felt somehow more real now that it was out in the world, spoken into the open air, carried on the wind toward the horizon. I wasn't speaking to a person anymore.
I wasn't seeking a response, and I wasn't expecting closure in the way we often think we need it.
No, in this moment, I was simply reclaiming my voice, letting the truth of that loss be heard no matter how far it had traveled from me. It's a strange thing, speaking the truth we've kept buried for so long. It's as if the words themselves hold power over us when we keep them inside, but once we let them out, they lose their control. And maybe, just maybe, they give us back the power we've been holding in reserve, waiting for permission to be free.
I thought of someone I had once met in a small workshop on healing.
She had shared a deeply personal story about how she had written a letter to her mother who had passed years ago. The letter had remained unsent, hidden in a drawer for a long time. But one day, after much coaxing from a counselor, she took the step of reading the letter aloud, just as I was doing now. She stood by the window in her small apartment, reading it to the empty room, her voice trembling at first, then growing steadier. As the words came out, she felt an unexpected lightness, a release that she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't waiting for her mother to hear the letter. She wasn't expecting any grand gesture of reconciliation. No, what she was seeking was her own peace. And she found it in the simple act of giving voice to the truth that had lived in her heart for so many years. That moment when she spoke aloud became her own kind of healing. She said that the burden she had carried for so long of things left unsaid, of a relationship that never had closure, began to lift. The silence she'd been trapped in had been broken not by the other person, but by her own courage to speak.
I felt that same lightness begin to settle over me now, as I stood on the shore with my letter in hand. The wind had picked up again, sweeping my words away as if the sea itself was listening.
And in that moment, I realized that sometimes the courage to speak isn't about the other person or even about finding resolution. It's about reclaiming our own voice. It's about finding the strength to speak our truth, even if no one else is there to hear it. Writing exercise? Now I invite you to take a moment to write your own goodbye letter. This could be a letter to someone you've lost, to a part of yourself that no longer serves you, or to a dream that you've had to let go of. The important thing is that you allow the words to flow freely, without judgment or expectation. Take your time. Don't worry about what the letter sounds like, or whether it's perfect. Just let your heart speak, knowing that this letter is for you and for your healing. There's no need to send it, no need to show it to anyone else. This is a letter of release, a letter that will help you break the silence and reclaim your voice. When you're done, find a quiet place where you can read your letter aloud. It could be in your room, outside, or even by the sea, wherever you feel safe. Speak the words that you've kept inside. Let them flow, even if it's difficult. Let them go. And know this: when you do, you are reclaiming your own voice. You are giving yourself permission to speak, to be heard, and to heal. The courage to speak, even in the absence of a listener, is one of the most powerful tools you have on your journey toward closure. Chapter 7. The Ritual of Release.
The night was still, the air cool and crisp as I stood by the fire pit in the backyard. The world felt quiet around me, the soft rustling of leaves in the trees, the only sound that filled the space.
I had spent days contemplating the right way to say goodbye, to let go of everything I had been holding on to.
And now, in the dimming light of dusk, I stood before the flames, a letter clutched tightly in my hands. It was a letter I had written weeks ago, but it wasn't just any letter, it was my final goodbye.
The words inside had been filled with grief, regret, and unspoken truths that I had kept buried for far too long. But today they were ready to be released. Today I was going to let them go.
I was ready to burn them away.
I took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill my lungs, grounding me. The fire pit was already prepared, the wood stacked high, waiting for its purpose. The faint scent of dried pine and earth filled the air, and the orange glow of the matchstick danced in my fingers as I ignited the flame. I held the letter over the fire, my heart racing, my pulse quickening. The moment had arrived.
I whispered the words under my breath, the ones I had been holding inside for so long, the ones I thought I would never get the courage to say.
I release you. I let you go. With that, I set the letter into the fire. The flames hungrily devoured the paper, curling it, twisting it, turning it into ashes that floated upward into the night.
For a moment, I watched the flames flicker and dance, feeling the heat of the fire wash over me.
There was something deeply symbolic in the act, something almost sacred. As the letter burned, I felt the weight in my chest begin to lift. I had set my words free.
I had let go of the silence.
And with that release, I felt lighter. The fire crackled, sending small embers into the night sky, and I realized that the ritual had not only freed my words, it had freed me. It was as though the act of physically releasing them, of watching the paper disintegrate in the flames, had made it real. It wasn't just an emotional or mental release anymore. It had become something I could touch, something I could see. The act had transformed the intangible grief into something tangible, something that had a beginning and an end. Rituals have a way of anchoring us in moments of transition, of marking a point of closure in our lives. They give us the ability to take something intangible, our emotions, our regrets, our grief, and turn them into something we can hold in our hands. Whether it's through an object, an action, or a shared experience, rituals help us turn our feelings into something concrete, something we can touch and feel, something that has a definitive end. As I stood there watching the last remnants of the letter dissolve into the fire, I realized that this small, personal ritual had done more than I had expected.
It had given me the closure I'd longed for, a chance to release all the emotions tied to my unsaid goodbyes. And as the embers died down and the night became quieter, I felt a sense of peace settle over me.
Rituals like this don't just serve to help us release, they serve as symbols of change. They mark the passage from one emotional state to another, helping us make sense of what we've been through and guiding us towards something new. In the act of letting go, we create space for something else to enter: peace, healing, growth.
The letter had been symbolic of all the things I hadn't said, all the goodbyes I had never fully spoken.
And now it was gone. The fire had taken it, and in doing so, it had set me free. Ritual creation. Now I want to invite you to create your own ritual, a small act that can help you honor and release your own unsaid goodbyes. A ritual can be anything you feel called to do, something that allows you to physically mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. You don't need to make it grand or complicated, it just needs to be meaningful to you. Here are 3 ritual ideas to inspire you, drawn from different cultural traditions that you can use to help release what you've been holding on to. Writing and burning a letter. This is the ritual I practiced, the simple, powerful act of writing a letter to someone or something you need to let go of. Once you've written the letter, take it to a fire pit or a safe place and burn it. As the paper disintegrates in the flame, allow yourself to feel the weight lift, knowing that your words are being released into the universe, free from the confines of your heart. Planting a seed. In many cultures, planting a seed represents the idea of new beginnings and growth. Take a small plant, a seedling, or even a tree sapling, and plant it in the earth. As you plant the seed, speak aloud your intention to let go of what's no longer serving you. This ritual symbolizes new life, what you're ready to grow after the release of your goodbye. Over time, you'll be able to watch it grow, a living representation of your own healing and transformation. Releasing a paper boat into water, inspired by the Day of the Dead traditions, this ritual involves writing your goodbye on a small piece of paper, folding it into a boat, and releasing it into a river, stream, or ocean. The water represents the flow of life, and as the boat floats away, you're symbolically letting your goodbye drift with it, carried by the current, free to continue its journey beyond your reach. Each of these rituals gives us the opportunity to mark the end of something, to release it into the world and watch it transform. They provide a tangible way to connect with our emotions, to process what we've been holding on to, and to make space for something new. By creating your own ritual, you're offering yourself the chance to say goodbye in a way that feels real, in a way that you can touch, see, and feel. The power of ritual. Rituals aren't just ceremonial, they're deeply personal. They help us honor what we've lost and what we need to let go of. They serve as markers of transition, giving us the ability to take a step forward even when it feels difficult. Whether it's the symbolic release of a letter into the fire, the planting of a seed in the earth, or the sending of a paper boat into the water, rituals help us say goodbye in a meaningful, tangible way. By creating a ritual for your own unsaid goodbyes, you are allowing yourself to take back control of your healing. You are transforming the intangible weight of regret and grief into something real, something you can release. And by doing so, you create space for something new to enter: peace, healing, and a renewed sense of freedom. Chapter 8. The Healing Power of Forgiveness. The photo was old, yellowing at the edges, but it still held the clarity of a moment frozen in time. I had stumbled upon it while sorting through a box of old family keepsakes tucked away in a dusty corner of the attic. At first, I didn't recognize the faces, but then I realized they were my parents, young and laughing in a way I had never seen them before. My mother's smile was wide and genuine, my father's arm wrapped around her shoulders in a tender way I hadn't witnessed in years. It struck me suddenly how much time had passed since I had last seen them that happy before everything had gone wrong. The resentment that had built up between us over the years seemed to flood back in an instant. I had carried that anger like a stone in my chest, a weight that had grown heavier with each passing year. For so long, I had refused to forgive them, convinced that my anger was justified. The words left unspoken, the moments left unsaid, they had been too much for me to forget. But there, in that quiet moment, something shifted inside me. I sat down on the attic floor, the photo in my hands, and let the feelings come. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for, but somehow in the presence of that picture, I was ready to face the truth. I hadn't forgiven them.
Not really.
Not for the mistakes they had made, nor for the way they had hurt me, intentionally or unintentionally. But the weight of that resentment had become a burden I no longer wanted to carry. Forgiveness wasn't something I had ever truly understood. To me, it had always seemed like an abstract concept, something that required a certain level of grace that I didn't know if I had. But I had reached a point where I couldn't hold on to this anger any longer. It had been eating at me for years. It had tainted my relationships, my peace of mind, and my ability to move forward. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that forgiveness wasn't about letting them off the hook. It wasn't about absolving them of their mistakes. It wasn't even about them at all. Forgiveness was for me, for my healing, for my ability to move on, for my peace. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for us.
This idea, which had always felt like a distant truth I could never quite grasp, suddenly made sense.
Carrying around that bitterness, that resentment, had been like shackling myself to the past.
I had let the pain define me.
But by forgiving, I was choosing to release that grip. I was choosing to give myself the gift of freedom. Research into forgiveness shows just how powerful it can be for our well-being. Dr. Fred Luskin, a leading expert on forgiveness, has spent years studying its effects on emotional health. He points out that forgiving doesn't mean condoning the behavior or forgetting the hurt, it simply means releasing the hold that resentment has over us. According to Luskin's work, people who forgive experience lower levels of anxiety and depression, better physical health, and improved relationships. They are able to break free from the cycle of anger and regret that keeps them tethered to their past. When I thought about it in those terms, forgiveness seemed less like an act of generosity toward my parents and more like an act of self-preservation. It was about freeing myself from the burden of carrying their mistakes and the hurt they had caused. It was about unburdening my soul so I could move forward with peace. In that moment, with the photo still clutched in my hands, I whispered to myself, "I forgive you." And though the words felt small at first, like they didn't quite match the gravity of what I was feeling, something inside me began to shift. The weight I had carried for so long started to lighten.
I didn't have to hold on to the anger anymore.
I didn't have to let it define me. Forgiveness, I realized, is not a one-time event. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't come easily. There are days when the pain resurfaces, when the old wounds feel fresh again. But the more I practiced forgiveness, the more I let go of the need to stay angry, the more peace I found. It became easier to breathe, easier to smile, easier to look at my parents without the sharp sting of resentment clouding my vision. But even more than that, forgiveness gave me the power to reclaim my own story.
By forgiving them, I was no longer bound by the events that hurt me.
I was no longer a victim to the past. Instead, I was choosing to move forward, choosing to let go. Forgiveness note. Now, I want to invite you to write a note. A note to yourself, forgiving yourself for carrying this silence for so long, for holding on to resentment, for not speaking your truth. Write a letter to yourself, acknowledging the weight you've carried and allowing yourself to release it. Forgiving yourself for not forgiving yourself for the moments you couldn't find the strength to speak. Let this note be a release. Let it be a symbol of your willingness to heal, to choose peace over anger, and to embrace the freedom that forgiveness brings. Take your time with this exercise. Let the words come slowly, and when you're done, read it to yourself. Take a deep breath, and with every word, release the burden. Allow yourself to feel lighter, freer, and more at peace with the past. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. It's not an act of weakness, but one of immense strength. And it is the key to healing from the goodbyes we never said, healing from the silences that haunt us, and healing from the hurts that have kept us tethered to a past that no longer serves us. Chapter 9. The Gift of New Beginnings. The city skyline loomed ahead as I drove down the highway, the weight of the past loosening with each passing mile. It was as if the further I drove, the lighter I became. The rearview mirror reflected a life that had been familiar but heavy, filled with memories, regrets, and the echoes of unsaid goodbyes. As the miles stacked up, the grip of the past grew weaker until all I could see ahead of me was possibility. I had made the decision to move to a new city, take a new job, and start a new chapter. I didn't know exactly what this new chapter would look like, but I knew it was time. It was time to let go of the things that had been holding me back, the old hurt, the old stories, the unspoken words that I had carried for far too long.
I remember the first night in my new apartment.
It was small, cozy, and filled with the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. The air felt different here, crisper, lighter. As I unpacked the last box, I stood by the window and looked out at the city below, still buzzing with life. The horizon stretched wide before me, whispering promises of a future I had yet to explore. The city felt like a blank canvas, a place where I could rewrite my story, where I could step into who I was becoming rather than who I had been. It wasn't just the new city or the new job that made it feel like a fresh start. It was the act of leaving behind the parts of myself that had been weighed down by unfinished goodbyes. Every unsaid goodbye once released makes room for new beginnings. I didn't fully understand this until I stood here, in a new place, breathing in a new future. When we hold on to things that are unresolved, we hold ourselves back from the joy, peace, and possibility that are waiting for us. The past can weigh us down like an anchor, keeping us tethered to what we can't change. But when we let go, when we say goodbye to what no longer serves us, something beautiful happens. We clear space for fresh starts, for unexpected joys, and for new opportunities. I think of all the things I used to hold on to: regret, guilt, resentment. I used to carry them with me wherever I went, thinking they defined me, thinking they were part of who I was. But with each mile I traveled away from the familiar, I felt those burdens start to lift. I didn't need them anymore. I could choose to leave them behind, and in doing so, I made room for the new. In this new city, I was no longer a product of my past mistakes or the silent goodbyes I never got to say. I was someone different, someone who had chosen to move forward, to embrace the unknown with open arms.
The weight that had once held me down was gone, and in its place was a sense of freedom I had never experienced before.
As I walked around my new neighborhood the next morning, I noticed the small things, the way the sunlight filtered through the trees, the sound of birds singing in the distance, the soft hum of life unfolding all around me. There was something magical about starting fresh, about having the chance to build a life without the shadow of the past hanging over me. The gift of new beginnings. Every new beginning carries the promise of growth, the opportunity to step into a version of ourselves we've always wanted to be. When we let go of what no longer serves us, we create space for what does. It's like clearing the clutter in a room to make room for something more meaningful, something that will fill the space with light and purpose. In this new chapter, I found the courage to embrace the unknown. The future no longer seemed daunting, it felt like an adventure waiting to unfold. And And with that newness came excitement, the kind that can only be born when we're free from the burdens of the past. Possibility list? Now I want to invite you to create your own list of possibilities. What would you invite into your life now that you're letting go of the past? What new things are waiting for you just beyond the horizon? Take a moment to think about it. What have you been holding yourself back from? What joys or opportunities have you not allowed yourself to experience because of the weight of unresolved goodbyes? Here are a few ideas to get you started. New relationships. What kind of people do you want to surround yourself with? Maybe there's a community or a circle of friends that you've always dreamed of but haven't yet pursued. What would it feel like to open yourself up to new connections without the baggage of past hurts? Personal growth. What new skills or passions have you been longing to explore? Is there a hobby you've put off, a course you've wanted to take, or a goal you've been too afraid to chase? Let go of the self-doubt and embrace the opportunity to grow in ways you never thought possible. Adventure and travel. Is there a place you've always wanted to visit? A new country? A dream destination? Let go of the fear that's kept you from stepping out of your comfort zone. The world is waiting for you to explore it. In your own life, consider what it would mean to let go of the past and step into something new. Think about the things you're holding on to that might be keeping you from stepping into the future you truly desire. What are the possibilities waiting for you on the other side of letting go? The horizon of possibility. As I stood there looking out at the skyline, I realized that the horizon wasn't just a line where the earth met the sky, it was a symbol of everything that was possible. It stretched out, limitless, filled with infinite potential. The past was behind me, and ahead of me was everything I had yet to discover. The air felt light, the city full of promise. I knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of uncertainty, but I also knew that with each step I took, I was moving further into a future that was entirely mine to create. The grip of the past had loosened, and in its place was a wide open space filled with hope, dreams, and possibilities I hadn't yet even imagined. As I continued to walk, I could feel the weight of every unsaid goodbye lifting from my shoulders. I was walking towards something new, and in that space, the gift of new beginnings felt like a treasure, a gift I had finally allowed myself to receive. Chapter 10. The Last Goodbye We Say to Ourselves. The bathroom light flickered slightly, casting a soft glow across the room as I stood before the mirror. The surface was fogged up from the steam of the shower, and my reflection was blurred, unfamiliar, yet undeniably mine. There was something oddly serene about the stillness of the moment, a quiet before a transformation I had been avoiding for too long. I hadn't truly looked at myself in weeks. Not really. I'd been too busy with the noise of life, rushing from one task to another, keeping up with the demands of work, friends, and the expectations I had placed on myself. It was easier to keep moving, easier to drown out the quiet voice inside that was calling me to pause, to reflect, and to let go. But today, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The voice was louder now, insistent, almost gentle in its insistence. So, I wiped the fog from the mirror with the edge of my sleeve. The surface cleared, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I looked at myself. Really looked. There was a time when I couldn't bear to look, when the reflection that stared back at me was too full of old pain, regret, and self-doubt. I saw a person who had been defined by mistakes, by choices I wished I could undo, by relationships that had been broken and goodbyes left unsaid. I saw someone who had carried so much baggage, someone who had never fully let go of the past. I saw someone who had never truly accepted themselves. But now, in the stillness of this moment, there was no rush. No one was watching. There was only me, and for the first time, I allowed myself to see the person who had been standing there all along. The person who had survived the storms, who had navigated the pain and the hurt, and who was still standing still fighting. And in that moment, I realized something profound. The last goodbye I needed to say wasn't to anyone else. It wasn't to a lost friendship, a past lover, or a family member I'd never fully forgiven. The last goodbye I needed to say was to a version of myself that had been holding on to old pain. That version of me, the one who clung to regret, guilt, and past wounds, no longer had to define who I was. I didn't need to carry the burden of who I used to be. It was time to release her, to let her go. The truest closure, self-compassion.
I had spent so much time searching for closure outside of myself.
I had believed that I could only heal by receiving an apology from someone else, by hearing words that could undo the hurt. But the truth I came to realize was that the most powerful closure doesn't come from anyone else. It comes from within. Self-compassion is the truest form of closure. It is the act of releasing ourselves from the burden of past mistakes, past hurts, and past versions of ourselves that no longer serve us. It is the act of saying you are enough, just as you are, and you don't have to carry this anymore. It is the act of allowing ourselves to be human, to be imperfect, and choosing to love ourselves anyway. In that mirror, I could feel the weight lifting. It was as though the reflection of the person I used to be was slowly fading away, replaced by someone new, someone who didn't need to hold on to the past to feel validated. Someone who was worthy of love, forgiveness, and grace, not because of their achievements or perfection, but simply because they existed.
I stood there, still, with the quiet hum of the bathroom as my backdrop.
I thought about all the times I'd been too hard on myself, the times I'd blamed myself for things that were never truly my fault.
I thought about the moments I'd spent wishing I could be someone else, someone better, someone who had it all together.
But in that moment, I understood. I wasn't meant to be perfect. I wasn't meant to have all the answers. I was meant to be me. And that was enough. The mirror exercise. I want to invite you to try something simple yet deeply transformative. Stand in front of a mirror, just as I did. Look at your reflection and really see yourself. Take a deep breath, and for once, stop criticizing. Stop judging and just be.
Then say the words out loud, softly, gently, but with conviction.
I release you from this burden. You're enough. Say it as many times as you need to, until you begin to feel the truth of those words sink in. Say it until you realize that you don't need to hold on to the past anymore. Say it until you believe that you are worthy of peace, of love, and of kindness. This is not about forgetting the past or pretending it didn't happen. It's about choosing to stop letting it define you. It's about choosing to release the version of yourself that clings to what's gone, to what you can't change, and to what no longer serves you. In this goodbye, you will find a hello to yourself renewed.
The healing goodbye.
As I stood there speaking those words to myself, I felt a wave of relief wash over me.
It wasn't instant, and it wasn't perfect, but it was real.
The more I said it, the lighter I felt. The more I said it, the more I understood that I had the power to free myself from the weight of my past. I was letting go piece by piece, and in return, I was finding a version of myself that was whole, untethered, unburdened, and ready to embrace the future. In the mirror, I saw more than just the reflection of a face. I saw the person I had become after all the hardship, all the heartache. I saw the person I was choosing to be, someone who could stand tall, who could forgive, and who could love themselves no matter what. In that goodbye, I found a hello to a new way of living, to a new chapter filled with compassion, grace, and freedom. A hello to a version of myself that wasn't defined by what I had lost, but by what I had gained. A hello to the person I had always been, worthy of love, worthy of peace, and worthy of all the joy life had to offer. This chapter emphasizes the power of self-compassion and the healing that comes from saying goodbye to the parts of ourselves that hold on to pain and regret. The mirror exercise serves as an actionable takeaway, allowing readers to engage in a practice of self-forgiveness and self-love. The tone is reflective and tender, leading to a conclusion that paints the act of self-compassion as a new beginning, a hello to a renewed self. Conclusion: the goodbye we choose. The journey began with a memory, a moment frozen in time, a goodbye left unsaid. That memory, like so many others, carried with it the weight of unspoken words, the heaviness of unresolved emotions. We carry these memories with us, not always aware of how deeply they affect our lives, our decisions, our relationships. The memories shape us, but they don't have to define us. From there, we stepped into silence with all its power, its discomfort, and its wisdom. In the quiet spaces between words, we learned to face the truths we had been avoiding. We began to hear the unsaid, the grief, the longing, the pain, and we learned that silence is not something to be feared, but something to be understood. In those moments of stillness, we began to confront the echoes of our past and the goodbyes we hadn't given ourselves permission to say. But it was closure that ultimately set us free. Closure is not an event, but a process, a choice we make to release the past and embrace the future. It's not about finding the perfect words or having all the answers. It's about accepting that some things are beyond our control, but our response to them is within our power. When we choose closure, we choose to stop carrying what we no longer need. We choose to step forward, lighter, freer, and more at peace. This journey has been about transformation, not just through what we've learned, but through the quiet acts of letting go, the conscious choices to release the pain of the past. It's about forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, and making peace with what was so we can move forward with grace. And now, here we stand, at the end of one chapter, ready to turn the page to what's next. The River's Song, A Quiet Goodbye. I remember the last time I sat by the river alone, the world quiet around me.
The sound of water flowing, the wind gently moving the leaves in the trees.
The air was cool and the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a soft golden glow across the surface of the river. It felt like the world was pausing, holding its breath, and in that stillness, I felt the weight of the past lift. The river flowed uninterrupted, as if time itself was moving forward, whether I was ready or not. And in that moment, I realized that the past, in all its complexity, could never be undone. But what I could do, what I had always had the power to do, was choose how I moved forward. The past could never be rewritten, but the goodbye could be mine to choose. I sat there by the river, watching the water slip by, each ripple a reminder of the goodbyes I'd said and the ones I had left unsaid. And for the first time, I felt whole, not because everything was resolved or perfect, but because I had finally given myself permission to let go.
The unsaid words were no longer trapped inside me.
I had spoken them in my heart, in my mind, and in my spirit. I had forgiven, I had released, and most importantly, I had made peace with what was. As the last rays of sunlight faded, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I whispered softly to the river, "Goodbye, and thank you for the lessons." And in that moment, I felt the freedom that comes with true closure, the freedom to step into what's next. The goodbye you choose. The past is a chapter we can never rewrite. It is filled with moments that shaped us, with pain that has molded us, and with goodbyes that were either spoken or left unsaid. But the one thing we can choose is how we say goodbye to it. The goodbyes we never said, the ones we avoided or didn't have the chance to speak, have power over us until we choose to release them. And that release, that act of choosing to let go, can only come from within. It is not dependent on other people's apologies or actions. It is a decision we make for ourselves. When we choose to say goodbye to our old hurts, our unhealed wounds, and our broken stories, we set ourselves free. And in that freedom, we create space for something new to enter our lives. Every goodbye, even the silent ones, shapes us. Let it shape you toward peace. Let it guide you toward a future where you no longer carry the weight of the past, but instead walk forward with a light heart and an open mind. In that freedom, you will find a new beginning. The goodbye you choose to say today will be the one that sets you free tomorrow. It will be the one that allows you to step into the next chapter of your life with hope, with courage, and with the peace of knowing that you have released the past. Saying it now on your terms. The past can't be rewritten, but the goodbye can be yours to choose. That's the gift of this journey, that you now have the power to release what no longer serves you. You don't have to wait for someone else to say the words. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. You can say it now in your way, on your terms, and step into what's next. It may not be easy. It may take time, but I promise you, it will be worth it. When you choose to say goodbye, when you release what has been holding you back, you make space for something more. You make space for healing, for growth, for new beginnings. And in that space, you will find peace. Closing note, letting the goodbyes shape you toward peace. As you walk forward, Know that every goodbye, every word unspoken, every moment of silence, every regret, and every release has shaped you. They are all part of your journey, and they have led you to this moment. Let them shape you toward peace. Let them guide you to a place where you can say goodbye without fear, without guilt, and without regret. Let every goodbye, even the silent ones, be a step toward healing. The road ahead may not always be smooth, but with each goodbye you choose to release, you make your path a little clearer, a little lighter. And as you walk, remember that the goodbye you say today is not an end. It is a beginning to a future where you are free to be yourself, unburdened by the past, and open to all that life has to offer.